Hello, my name is Thibaut Jaberg, violin maker and student here at the Swiss School of Violin Making. Today I would like to introduce to you my small 38 centimeters viola model. For the past few years I started noticing that there is actually quite a high demand for small violas like this, and somehow the luthiers seem to be quite reluctant to build such small violas. The reason most of the time being the sound. Most luthiers seem to prefer the sound, the character of sound of larger 41, 42 centimeter viola models, sometimes even 43 centimeter long violas. And of course, large violas like this, they do have advantages like more volume, more depth, and of course the longer string length, which often comes with larger violas, has more tension. So the strings, the longer strings, have more tension, and that usually creates a more powerful, bigger sound, louder instrument also mostly. But of course those big violas, they come with the disadvantage of the more hard, the harder, more difficult playability. And I've been talking to quite a few violists now over the past few years who seem to have problems often, often things like shoulder problems and back pains and things like that from just practicing the whole day on just large violas. So I found that often they tend to start to turn more towards small violas, often with body lengths below 40 centimeters. And yeah, because of this increased demand, I decided to build a small viola, but because most people still seem to prefer the sound of the bigger violas, I tried to take on the challenge and build a small viola which sounds as much as possible like a big viola. So yeah, I used certain elements to try and steer the sound character of this viola towards the character of a big viola. And those elements are the width of the body. So as you can see, if you are used to seeing violas, you will notice immediately that this is really quite a wide instrument, and I use this in combination with the depth of the ribs. The ribs are quite high, so the body is quite deep. The ribs are around 40 millimeters high, and yeah, this together with the width of the body should create a deeper, warmer sound, because we have a bigger volume of air inside the body. I also did a stop length, so the distance from the edge of the belly to the bridge, which is fairly long. So I tried to sort of squeeze the longest length I could in this small viola. So you can also see in the proportions that it's fairly long here, and then the rest is sort of quite squashed together, like very compact. So yeah, that's also one element I try to use to sort of get a decent string length onto this small viola. Another thing is the F-holes. I did really quite long F-holes on this instrument, and the aim was to have more flexibility around the bridge. And then on the topic of flexibility, I also tried to make the plates, the belly and the back, as thin as I dared to go, to again try and produce a deeper sound with more, yeah, sort of a fuller, deeper sound. And last but not least, I also used a fairly big, massive bass bar inside to try and, yeah, again give a bit more power to those lower strings. Exactly, those are the elements that I used to try and steer the sound of this instrument in the direction I wanted to. And then on the wood choice, I used willow actually for the back and the ribs, again in the hope that the increased flexibility and the lightness of willow, that it would again help the sound. For the soundboard and the neck, I used just classic maple and spruce. But the fingerboard, again, as you can see, is something special, something different. And I decided to use boxwood for this fingerboard. Because at the moment I am experimenting with alternatives to ebony wood, and this is a special construction as well. I used a core which was made out of spruce, and then a thin veneer of the boxwood glued over, so very much in the way that Baroque fingerboards would have been made. And I decided to do this to save boxwood and, yeah, to try use the least amount of this precious boxwood as possible, because, yeah, boxwood is also not so easy to get and fairly valuable. And I find that this is actually quite a interesting idea, this idea of veneering the fingerboard. And it's definitely something I'm going to do more experimenting with, because I find that whatever wood you're going to use to do the fingerboard, it is inevitably, I find, all the woods which are hard enough to make a fingerboard out of, they tend to be really rare, and they tend to be either a tropical hardwood, or something indigenous, like native, like boxwood, which is also quite rare and quite difficult to get. So I find it's really an interesting idea to do those veneered fingerboards. Yeah, so the results of this project and what I think of this experiment is that, yeah, I think it went in quite a good direction. It definitely has got some of the sound character of a big viola. Of course, it's very complicated and probably impossible to really get the best of both worlds, to get a small viola to sound like a big viola, but yeah, I think it did go in a good direction. For some things I might even have gone slightly too far, like for example the flexibility of the plates. I had some feedback from some musicians saying that that maybe it was slightly too like a slightly too deep and woolly, sort of cloudy sound, that maybe it lacked a bit of focus. And one musician commented that it might be the case that in a large concert hall this viola would lack a bit of projection, because it is such a sort of, yeah, a deep, cloudy, big sound. Yeah, so it might be that slightly thicker plates would have given it slightly more focus, but I'm not sure. Like, to a certain extent, I think it might also be just a matter of personal taste, if you like this type of character of sound that this viola has got. And yeah, one last thing that I would like to mention, one last topic, is strings. Strings for small violas are quite difficult to find. Most strings are designed for larger violas, and I think this makes a huge difference. So I think with this viola I'm gonna do some more experimenting with strings. Yeah, because I think finding the right strings could really make a huge difference on small violas. And yeah, it might even like be interesting to maybe find custom made strings for small violas. This is maybe something I'm gonna try and experiment with in future, to maybe get strings made especially for small violas, because yeah, it might be that it's gonna start to arrive on the market as I think small violas are becoming more popular. But yeah, I think this is definitely somewhere where it's I think a bit a gap in the market, let's say it like this, that I think there aren't enough like really strings that are designed for small violas, and of course the strings are very important. So yeah, these are my thoughts on this viola which I built. I'm gonna maybe show it to you slightly closer up, so you can see hopefully a little bit better, and then I'm gonna try and wrap up this video with me playing a few notes on it, even though I am not at all a viola player and I never had a single viola lesson in my life. But I'm gonna just attempt to make a few notes on it, just so you can get a small impression. So yeah, the scroll I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think it's really nice with those tool marks and the slight patina in the varnish. So yeah, we have the veneered boxwood fingerboard. You can maybe just about see that that it's veneered. Yeah. And the back with willow wood. Yeah, so I'm gonna attempt to play one or two notes. So yeah, just one or two notes to hopefully give you a slight impression and just to show that it does work. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I hope you found it interesting, those few thoughts on how a small viola could potentially be made to sound so that people like it. So yeah, I'm gonna see you in the next video. Take care. Goodbye.